Thank you so much, Andy, for being here. I'm really excited to be speaking with you. You want to start by taking like 30 seconds to tell us exactly what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Esty. Yeah, so basically, I technically am a finance coach, a financial coach. So I help people really through the lens of automation. So I'm someone who hates budgeting. I think a lot of finance people are like, hey, step one, you got to create that budget. I completely disagree. And I think that you can use automation and kind of behavioral psychology to make money 10 times easier with way better outcomes.
What sort of things do you do?
Yeah, just from a big picture standpoint. So I create a plan for my clients. I've got a course that kind of helps people walk through the stuff on their own if they want to DIY it. But basically, if I'm helping someone one to one, we basically break up the different ways that they spend their money into four different quadrants. So saving, investing, spending, and then like debt pay down, things like that. So basically, we break those quadrants up. So people have like one account, one checking account typically that they do, use everything for, right? And I think that that leads to a lot of kind of a muddied, I call it like a slush fund. So it's very difficult to gain clarity on what is happening in your finances. And in my opinion, the only way to have that clarity otherwise is by budgeting, which I think for most people is super painful, intimidating, scary. I would put myself in that category because I've tried all the different budgeting solutions out there, and I feel like I have success for a little while and then fall off the wagon. And so many people I talk to experience a very similar story, right? So by breaking everything out and siloing it, we basically have like one new checking account just for spending. And then instead of trying to do, most people get paid bi-weekly, but it's so much easier behaviorally to live on a weekly spending paycheck, if you will. So I break that down under four easy categories like groceries, going out to eat, kind of toiletries, household stuff, and entertainment. And you can just kind of figure out that number, automate a transfer to that new institution. And that 2 day transfer between institutions means behaviorally, again, it's easier to just stay on budget and spend the money in the spending account rather than dip into the other account and kind of like break the process. So that's literally step one, giving that away for free for everybody for how I help clients. Like step one is always kind of setting up that spending account. And then from there, we automate all bills. There should be some money left over. They would then begin opening savings accounts and investing accounts and kind of help people dial in like their 401ks or optimize those kind of things as well.
Yeah, I like that, like from a very high level. That's really good. It sounds a little bit similar to Profit First, like with Mike McCallowitz.
Ooh, yeah. You mean this book?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a big fan of Profit First. And it's funny because there's not that I'm aware of that he's put together any sort of like Profit First book for normal people that are not businesses. But
Right. I always like
yeah,
tell people who are entrepreneurs, and though like most people I surround myself with are, but like you need to read this book and just apply it to your life.
100%, 100%. So it's funny, and I think Profit First is really a riff on The Richest Man in Babylon. If
Yeah.
you've read that
Yes.
book,
Oh God. Yeah.
and it's funny because like I've been, nerding out on this topic for like 15 years, and I finally in the last few years ended up reading Profit First and Richest Man in Babylon and kind of put some of those pieces together. But um, so yeah, interestingly, like my whole kind of methodology is centered around a lot of that. But then also, like, have you ever used YNAB? Are you familiar with that by
Oh
chance?
no.
YNAB is you need a budget, and basically it's like having these digital envelopes via their software where you get paid like $1,000 and you say I'm going to put 100 towards my rent and 100 towards this and things like that. And so it's a great system. However, there's a huge learning curve as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I was watching YouTube videos to try to figure it out to begin with, got up, had like a few weeks of like, budgeting nirvana. Then I missed a transaction and it all fell apart. And so that's kind of a story of my life.
Yeah.
I say that to say I've just kind of figured a way to kind of automate that using other software. There's a great tool I love called Capital, Qapital. It's like kind of a digital savings account, but they have like these different kind of goals and buckets. And there's a lot of kind of fancy automation you can do. You can treat it like Acorns, where you swipe a card and then it rounds up the change and puts it into a specific bucket. Um, you can do kind of all things like that. So that's kind of what I use for like the savings portion of that. So we've got the spending money, we've got the savings, the investing, and if I may, I'm going to give you the real secret sauce here, especially for entrepreneurs, because we all have variable income, right? And I
Yep.
think that's the biggest headache for most people is cracking the code on that. And so what I do for people on the personal side of the fence is direct deposit everything really into the brokerage account. And so if you're unfamiliar with the term, brokerage account is just like a fancy word for like almost like a checking account at a investing institution. Instead, you can like invest in stocks and bonds and ETFs and mutual funds and all that. But you can also put money directly in a brokerage account, or a lot of brokerage institutions have savings accounts or checking accounts, and you deposit all of your income there. So then it stacks up, and then you kind of drip out the money for the bills. You drip out the money for your spending money. So you just begin to not only put yourself on autopilot, which is great, but you also kind of put your lifestyle in check so that as your business grows, as you're paying yourself more and more and more and more, your lifestyle doesn't just automatically go up and you're like, what the heck happened? Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's what so many entrepreneurs struggle with. When you're starting out, you're probably living very frugally. And then you make all this money, and then you're like, well, how am I like $30,000 in debt now? I built this business for freedom and now I'm struggling. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the remedy there.
Yeah. I love how like you've taken like a lot of different concepts that are like slowly becoming more familiar, and you really like put it all together in a really like simple, systemized way and dialed everything in the best way possible. Like figuring out really like what's best for every person, every situation, really. Right.
Thank
Like
you.
you said, like the profit first focus just on the entrepreneurs, but like not when it comes like to your own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. Again, I love Profit First. I have a client who was using Profit First very successfully, and he talked to me about how if you read the book, one of the big processes is on the 10th and the 25th of the month, you take the money from the income bucket and divvy it up to your profit, your tax, your owner's salary, and then expenses. And for him, even just that little exercise, he fell off the wagon and then kind of fell out of practice with it, which I think is normal because as an entrepreneur, you're busy, you're doing a million different things. And so the more that we can kind of take off our plate from a task minutia standpoint, I
Yeah.
think the better and more successful we can be. And so what I love is their Relay Bank is the bank that I use. Relayfi.com is the URL. And basically they will automate that process. So where every day what we do is money goes in the income bucket, and at the end of business, it divvies all the money up to all those buckets automatically. So that is beautiful. And then you can automate the salary to, again, your personal financial life. And so the idea there too is if we can have a flat salary, then we have a great month in our business, then the extra money grows and accumulates in the salary bucket so that when we have a lean month, like most of our businesses probably do from time to time, then you've got money there to pay your salary. And so like you were just kind of like living your life as a salaried employee of your business to some degree, while your business is just saving and investing all this money for you automatically. Like that's the end goal.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, because like I use like the profit first. I don't keep it exactly to the T, but like the concept,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like still doing the things manually. So like that's so awesome. I appreciate you for sharing that. But I
Yeah.
like this got me so excited. I want to like go a little bit back into
Oh,
more of,
sorry.
like
Yeah.
your story. No, like I love this. So good. But like I know like you weren't always like had your own business. Like you're originally working somewhere else. So could you like take us back to the beginning?
Yeah, oh man. Yeah, I'll try not to do the whole like life story, but like the 30-second version is like I came from a family that did not do any of this financial stuff. I didn't graduate. I mean, I graduated high school, but like I was too busy playing drums and skateboarding and thought I was going to like move to Nashville to be in a band. No one else was as serious as I was about it. So I ended up joining the Coast Guard at 21 just to get a job, literally. Glad to serve the country and all that. But I got a $4,000 bonus that I pissed away very quickly. And I joked that like, oh, like a normal person, I went to Barnes and Noble and like bought all these personal finance books to kind of figure out this problem because I was like, I need to learn how to manage money. And then like my head exploded and I went down the rabbit hole for like the next 15 years to learn everything I possibly could about money. Got in the financial services industry, had every job from being a financial advisor to recruiting financial advisors, selling annuities as a wholesaler to financial advisors, consulting for financial advisors, being the chief experience officer for a boutique financial planning firm was the last job I did. All the while struggling to put these things in practice. Like I had
What do you
way
think
too
was
much head
happening there?
knowledge.
Like why?
I think money, personal finance is behavior. I think there's a minimum amount of head knowledge that people need, and then everything else is behavior. So the idea of like creating a budget and sticking to it and all those things, I think really induce a lot of shame for most people, myself included, meaning that you create this beautiful budget on paper, and then now your job is to match your life with this spreadsheet theoretically, right? And so when you are not a perfect budgeter and something comes up like, oh, it's my niece's birthday and I have to buy a gift. Whoa, I didn't budget for that. Some people would say, well, I guess you're not going to get her a gift, right? Which doesn't fall with like normal reality in life. And, happiness, certainly. And so I just over time would struggle to kind of manage the money, especially having variable income as a salesperson for most of my career. Sales commissions, quarterly bonuses, that was very difficult to manage because I would like see the money. I knew it was coming. I'd kind of make this mental game plan of like, I'm going to save and invest. And then I just couldn't bring myself to like actually do the heavy lifting, if you will. And that's why automation was such a game changer for me. And I just spent years and years and years trying to figure out how can I crack the code on the variable income specifically, because that's the hardest thing. 99% of financial people have no clue that this is possible just by rethinking where you direct deposit your income in the first place, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's like literally instead of depositing it here, you deposit it there, and like everything changes. I love that.
Yes.
Um, so what happened? Like, what made you decide to like leave and like start your own thing?
Yeah, I guess the economy would be the answer to that
How
question.
long ago was
I
this?
was, yeah. So this was last year. So in the spring of last year, I got let go from the chief experience officer position just because I was working for a boutique financial planning firm. They were managing $130 million. I'm doing like LinkedIn content creation and SEO and blogging and all that stuff to kind of grow their content strategy. And at the time, the market was cut in half. So all of the equity markets really got pulled back to like 50%, right? And so, as a boutique financial planning firm, they derive their revenue on fees. So, if they're managing $130 million with a 1% fee and that gets cut in half, their revenue gets cut in half. And so it was like, hey, thanks, Andy. Time to go find a new job. So I had 6 weeks to kind of figure that out. And we had just sold our house literally right outside this window, if you can believe it. I literally lived right across the street from where I'm living now. We had sold our house. We had planned on going all in on Airbnb, if you can believe that. My wife and I have one little Airbnb where we live here in Charlotte, and we were going to expand that business and go all in. And then I like to say God had other plans. And I was like lying in bed one night. I saw an ad for a course on creating a course, as meta as that is. And I went all in on this concept that I've been sitting on for years and kind of just developing for myself and some, close friends and family, and felt like this is it. This is what I need to do with my life. And so I really just took the leap of faith and spent the first 5 months with no income at all, trying to build out this course until someone got into my DMs, funny enough, in Instagram, and was like, hey, let's talk about social media. And they really showed me the light that coaching is kind of the way to go to kind of continue to grow my business. But I'm a huge people person and extrovert, and so this has been so great for me because now I get to help people one on one kind of implement this plan that really solves their problems. When it comes to financial stress, doing the right things, having enough money. Like, people hate budgeting. Most people that I talk to hate budgeting, and so this is a way for them to kind of gain the clarity, hit their financial goals, and really get squared away once, and then let automation kind of do its thing over time.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So what happened? Like but some people, like most people have a choice. They're like, hey, like, okay, I think like time for me to leave. They're doing it like while they're doing another job, or they never had a job to start off with. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have a job. What were you planning on doing? Like, I know Airbnb, but like, was that going to be like full time, or were you wanting to get another job, or just like being open?
Yeah, good question. So when we sold the house, I mean, the plan was like, hey, the market's great. I've got some equity. Let's do some Airbnb arbitrage model, if you're familiar with that concept. So for those listening, that means instead of like buying a place and putting 20% down, you rent a property with the intention of putting it up on Airbnb. Obviously, going through the right channels to be very clear with the landlord or whoever or apartment building that, hey, this is my intention. And then you are able to automate these processes. And so you make money mostly on autopilot. That was our goal. Like, I planned on having a full time job while doing that until I could afford to maybe not have a full time job. And funny enough, I've always wanted to have like some sort of financial blog or something like that because for years, I mean, I was like reading Mr. Money Mustache and all these like intense fire blogs back in the day, dreaming of the ability to like do something like that in this space and really wrestling with imposter syndrome, which I'm sure everyone listening can appreciate. And so I felt like there was an opportunity just to jump in the deep end, and that like the stars had kind of aligned to enable me just to take the risk and feel very convicted that like I know what I have works. I know that it can help a ton of people. I know there's a massive segment of the population based on my financial planning background that would get rubbed the wrong way when you say, hey, we'd love for you to come into the firm and talk about being a client, and oh, hey, sorry, you don't have $250,000 of liquid cash to invest, therefore it's not worth the financial advisor's time. And knowing all the while that the financial advisor, they don't help at this granular level like I do, in the sense that like literally I have clients that make, $200,000 a year in a normal 9 to 5 profession that were genuinely scared to open a new checking account online, and so people want the hand holding. They want someone that's going to care about them and walk them through a process at a granular level. And just as an entrepreneur, kind of finding that to be true for myself, in the sense that there's so many problems we face as entrepreneurs, and we find that, oh my gosh, we can pay someone and they will solve this problem for me. It's like crazy to me, because like we all, being working on the internet in some way, shape, or form, it can feel scary because you're like, is this guy a scammer or whatever? And so I've had to get out of my comfort zone time and time again. Like I just hired a copywriter to redo all my sales copy for my landing pages. I hired somebody to do my branding currently, which I'm very excited about. I've hired people to do all these like micro tasks for me because I'm only one person. And so it's just been so liberating to outsource some of these things. And so that's my goal for other people, that like, if you're super stressed about finances, like, let's get it done. Let's get you that result that you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. What was your like transition? Like, okay, so you had your course and you're like, I actually need to make money, like coaching people, which like I'm in agreement with you on. But like how were you able to like first like internally, like emotionally, how are you thinking about that? Was it like something that you also like had imposter syndrome on? And also like what was it like till you got your first client?
Ooh, yeah, so good. So I'm gonna give him a shout out. Evan, at Evan Ross Media on Instagram DM'd me, and I thought, oh my gosh, some guy just trying to help me like dial in my social, whatever that means. It was very arrogant of me, but we all get these messages from people that are offering their services, and it's great. So I reluctantly said yes. He and his business partner hopped on a call with me, and they were telling me that they were going to not only help me with like the social and dialing it in and optimizing kind of my reels and some of that stuff, which was needed for sure, but that they were going to help me show me the light of coaching. And so all this time, and granted, there's so many ways that you can kind of make money doing these things, right? In this world of kind of digital information that we're selling to some degree, but ultimately I had a $250 course, and I struggled because, not to sound arrogant, but I think what I have is something really special and different than what is out there in the market currently. And I don't think anyone's doing that, that I'm aware of. I mean, I've scoured the internet to find it, trust me. But I say that to say, articulating that from a like avatar, brand strategy, sales copy, all of those things were very challenging for me. So I did my best to kind of throw up version 1.0. It was not Facebook ad profitable yet. And so that was very scary, because I'm seeing my own kind of savings dwindle, right? I feel the fear that like I'm the sole breadwinner for my family, my wife and 2 children, and knowing that like I've got to either figure this out or I've got to go back to corporate America, which I loathe personally, just because I'm like kind of an independent guy and want to do my own thing, and I don't want to have to like, have ask for time off and all that stuff, right? So they had a conversation with me, and I remember paying $500 that I was terrified to pay to like get the process started, because again, I didn't know these guys. They're on the some stranger on the internet, right? As I like to joke, but they took care of me. And they got me through those initial hurdles of like landing my first client, and charging some money for someone to do a service. And so that felt really scary, if I'm honest. But it's just been a slow climb since working with them. I hit 10,000 in revenue in my first month as a coach, which was like insane to me. So that was super liberating, and it's been an uphill climb since then. And so now it's just a matter of trying to optimize the things I'm already doing and outsource and like upgrade, the landing pages and the sales stuff, and redo some videos in the course and all of that. So it's just now this constant like, how can I continue to scale this and grow this and create kind of more funnels for the things that I'm doing.
Yes, that's awesome. What was like one like really important, I can't say like the most important, but like the real important thing that you did to like get your first client?
I guess getting in the DMs. I've got kind of a sales background, and so I mean, I've had to rethink a lot of things. Being in corporate America and selling, and like I'm used to picking up the phone and making 50 phone calls a day or 100 phone calls a day to prospect and cold calls. So the sales cycle is not unfamiliar to me, certainly, but using their method was really helpful in helping it to be more natural. And instead of just like smiling and dialing, so to speak, turning that into a digital version where you're reaching out to people on Instagram, having these kind of sales conversations and building relationships kind of online, and then hoping that my content is speaking to them, hoping that I can communicate effectively like what I do and how I help people, and trying to give away a good portion of what I do for free so that people can buy into the concept, so that when I do reach out, they're more receptive to have a conversation. And so again, trying to, like, one of the books I'm excited about is like Alex Hormozzi's $100 million leads is coming out soon. And so I recently just read $100 million offers, but just he's been a big part of helping me reshape the thought of like being afraid to give it away, right? And so that the idea of paying for implementation and giving away most of everything for free. So that's been a battle for me emotionally, just because it feels like I'm sitting on something that's really valuable and I'm afraid that someone's going to copy it or something like that, I guess, which is kind of silly. But basically, I've been able to try to rethink some of those things in a way that enables me to, like right now, like I give away like a free 30-minute strategy session, which literally I create a financial plan for people for free. If you went to like the bank, they charge you $2,500 for that. And granted, mine's now 150 pages of charts and graphs and 30 action items, but there's a reason why, because people don't take action on that stuff. It's
So where
like,
can
hey,
people
here's
find
your.
that? Like, what's the link to that? To that
Oh,
30?
thank you. Well, I mean, they can email me. Probably is probably the easiest way, because I don't necessarily publicly share that at the moment. Although I'm trying to reconsider some of that stuff. I mean, they can go to my website, andyhoffman.me. There's a coaching tab. If you're interested, you can watch a quick video and book some time, or reach out to me directly at hi@andyhoffman.me if they want to have that kind of 30-minute chat. So I love to do it, and I, at this stage of my career, like, I want to give away as much as I possibly can. And like, I want to help as many people as I possibly can with this stuff, because I know how stressful it is. I know that I was spinning my wheels for years, super stressed, like literally having like tightness in my chest at the thought of having to budget again, which is crazy. I don't know if anyone else relates to that, but that was my story for sure. And so it's
Yeah, I like to
been,
say money's energy.
good.
So like totally
Mm.
get you on that one. So last question. Where um where can people find you? We said andyhoffman.com. Links will be to that in the show notes. But what is something controversial that you believe in?
Ooh, okay. Here we go. I wish I had more time to expand on some of these things, but a lot of financial gurus will say like the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman line of like permanent insurance, whole life insurance, IULs, whatever, are like trash, or like the worst investment you can possibly make. And I think that that is false. I'm not a life insurance agent. I don't sell life insurance. I don't manage people's investments. I try to be as conflict free as I possibly can in this business, but one of the things that people don't understand is if they follow David McKnight, his work, he has a book, podcast, and documentary all by the same name, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming. He makes a very compelling argument that like tax rates could literally double by 2030. And so what are the things that we could do to shelter some of that income, and really make the transition from traditional IRAs and things like that to a Roth-like kind of vehicles. And so a permanent policy like a whole life insurance policy gives you Roth like tax treatment. And the biggest kind of red herring, if you will, that people think about when they think of like a whole life insurance policy is that, oh, well, it doesn't get a rate of return like a stock, like, stocks do, which is 100% right, because they're not stocks. They literally invest in bonds. And so
Right.
if we change our mindset to say, oh, well, this gets bond like returns, well, maybe I can take a portion of this and look at, if I've got $1 million portfolio, maybe instead of being 100% equities, which I'm all about, maybe we'll be 90% equities and 10% bond like plan, in this case, a whole life policy, so that when we think about liquidating the portfolio over the years as we retire, people might be familiar with the concept of the 4% rule, which means you can safely pull 4% off a equity portfolio, or stock and bond portfolio, I should say, over long periods of time. That's been kind of like the gold standard. People argue that it's maybe the 3% rule now. The point is, the reason it's the 3% rule or the 4% rule is because over time, we have market volatility. The market goes down. You don't want to be pulling money off a portfolio in a down market, ideally. And so by having money in a guaranteed area, which a whole life policy is, you've got a guarantee that you can pull that money out during the down market, which takes the pressure off your equity portfolio, enabling you to pull higher rates of return off of that, or a higher withdrawal rate over time. So that's the short version. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't get like too granular on that one.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I'm gonna put links to all your stuff down below so everyone can go and get all your awesome value on any of their favorite platforms. Thank you so much, Andy, for being here. It was so good to speak to you. And like, I even like for myself, like appreciate being able to take it to the next level. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Essie. It's so much fun. Thank you.
Awesome.